Welcome back to Thursday Night with 912 Sports. I'm Kevin Price, staff writer and podcast host. And as you can see with us is our next guest on the show tonight, athletic director at Frederica Academy and also head basketball coach, Carl Nash. Coach Nash, how you doing?
Good. It's a crazy time right now.
It is a crazy year. I've seen you a couple of times, but I guess really haven't seen you since the summer got started. And that's one way to describe it. 2020 has been crazy. Who knows what else is going to happen? But let's start there. Obviously, the spring sports season got interrupted. We did have Coach Derrick on here a couple of weeks ago to talk about, the conditioning and all that the Knights football team is doing. But just for you and the school, how disappointing was it for the spring sports season to get canceled like it did?
Well, it was very disappointing for us. We had, I think, at least 4 or 5 teams that we knew that were going to do well throughout the state, and we just never got a chance to get going with them. Our baseball team was picking up steam, and our 2 soccer programs were really playing well at the time, and our golf program was always very good, and our track program never really got got out of the chute. And boy, it's been difficult. It really has. I feel so bad for our kids, especially our seniors, and it was hard to deal with that. But everybody's going through that right now, so we're just a piece of that puzzle.
And Coach, just kind of talk about the way things have gone this summer at Frederica. I think the GHSA had planned on starting back on June 1st. They pushed theirs back to June 8th. But I think the GISA, if I'm not mistaken, from when we talked to Coach Derrick earlier, did go ahead and start conditioning on the 1st. Is that right? Of June.
Yeah, right. And we've stayed in that conditioning. We've been practicing as much as we can as far as the distancing and making sure we keep them in small groups with the same coach. I think that our trainers and Coach Derrick and his staff have done a really good job of making sure that they try to follow the right amount of protocol for that. We do a lot of cleaning, a lot of disinfecting and fumigating, and so we've done a pretty good job with that. I've been very happy with that up to this point. Hopefully we'll be able to continue to do that. You just never know what these guys are going to do once they leave the field, and who they're going to be around. And we can't really control that, but I think here on campus we've done a really good job, and that's a credit to our trainer, Adam Norman, and to Coach Derrick and his staff.
And of course, don't address anything you can't address, but obviously in the GHSA there's been several schools scattered across the state that maybe had to stop for a day or two or even shut things down for a week. All kind of different examples of the way COVID-19 has affected them. What about in the GISA? Is there a general thing? I mean, has everybody been doing pretty good as far as their schools go?
For the most part, everybody's done fairly well. There has been a few cases. I stopped all of our activity on campus with our athletics for about a week and a half. Once it started getting a little bit worse in the county, from what we've heard, we just kind of stopped it for a week and a half, said, guys, we need to take a breath here. Let's see how things go. And that was, I think it was well received by all of our coaches and families and all that. Sometimes you just have to step back and reevaluate everything. And we did that. Once that was over and we could get back out on the field, I think everybody felt a little bit better about things. And, we even had a more of a deep clean in our weight room, and even in the gym, we fumigated that. And so we were able to, I think, do some things that you normally don't get to go and do when you have a bunch of activities going on. So we were able to do that. And I was thankful that everybody understood that. I think Coach Derrick was behind that 100% as well. So once we did that, I felt a little bit better about things too.
Now, when was that? Was that the last week of June or first week of July?
It was the last week of June before the July 4th, because we had that dead period. So we took that dead period, and the rest of the time that I told them, let's just step away from it. And I think it really helped. Yeah.
And of course, the football team, started on June the 1st. I think your volleyball team, though, was delayed. Is that correct?
Yeah, we did that for a few reasons. We knew that we couldn't have more than a few kids in the gym at one time, and so we just kind of did. When we did get started, we were doing a lot of conditioning outside. Our volleyball team was, and then she was going 8 girls at a time. She split them up. We did a lot of social distancing and all that, and so I think it was very good for us to be able to start a little later. So we had a good plan in mind. Now she's able to have her team and work them out the way she needs to work them out. We're still doing a really good job, I think, of following all the protocol that has been set up here. And I think Brittany Griffin is our coach, and she's done a really good job of making sure those girls are taking care of themselves. And so we're keeping an eye on it. That's one thing, Kevin, to be honest with you, I'm probably a little more concerned at times about our gym activities than I am football, even though football is more of a contact sport and there's a lot of stuff going on, especially in those piles. But I'm concerned about the close atmosphere we have with our gym and all that. But right now, we've done a pretty good job with the way we're handling things, and I think Brittany's done a good job with that. And we keep an eye on our trainers. Outstanding, Adam Norman. He makes sure that he scans and screens every one of these kids that come in. And before you get out of your car to get on this campus, you're going to get screened. So we've done a really good job with that, and I think it's paid dividends for us. And I think the parents appreciate that we're doing that as well.
And again, don't answer anything you can't answer because of privacy issues or whatnot. But have y'all had anybody, a coach or a student athlete, test positive?
We've had athletes that have been around others that have, and so we've had to really keep an eye on that. We've had some kids that get screened, and I don't want to get into too much about that because of the privacy laws. But I can tell you that on our behalf and what the family's been doing and the kids, we've been doing very well with it.
Awesome. Well, Coach, one of the main things we wanted to talk to you about was, of course, the GISA along with the GHSA has kind of adjusted the schedules for later starts. The GHSA came out with that at the start of the week, basically voted to keep all of their fall sports other than football on track for an early to mid-August start, but backed up the official first games of football season to Labor Day weekend, September 4th weekend, as opposed to August 21st. It sounds like the GISA has done something very similar to that. Just kind of elaborate on some of the details in that regard.
Sure. We were seeing information late last night and this morning. In fact, right before we went online or air today, I received some more. But basically what we've done is our acclimation period usually starts on the 26th of August, but this year we're starting, 26th of July, but this year we're starting on the 3rd. I think unlike the GHSA, we're going to have 2 weeks of acclimation. So with pads and helmets, no contact. Why they did that, I don't really know why we have 2 weeks of it, but that's what we have. And so we pushed everything back. Once we go to our full pads, that will be on the 17th, and we'll be able to hit and all that after that. But it's just we backed up basically 2 weeks, Kevin, and I think with that, it just gives everybody a little bit more time to see how things go. Especially with being full padded and having some contact and stuff like that later on in August before you do. We had 2 scrimmages scheduled as well, and we're having to look at those to move those back because we can't start those until another 2 weeks later. So we're still working on those. Basically, our season has backed up 2 weeks, and we've been able to hang on to all of our games, including our GHSA crossover games, which we have 3 this year. So those are important for us to keep those.
And other than football, though, the other sports are still scheduled to start when they were going to start. Is that correct?
Yes, and they'll have their full practices. Right now, the girls are just working out in volleyball. They're not doing any formal practices. They're doing their workouts, lifting weights and running and all that. And so they'll start on August 1st, as they normally do. And then our cross country team is the same way. And and our cross country teams are really good. So we want to make sure that they have the opportunity to get together as a group. They haven't been able to do that for a while. So, we have big expectations for those guys too. The other thing we have to take under consideration, Kevin, is our middle school sports, because, we have to look at all that too, because we actually have more middle school sports in the fall than we do varsity. Because we have, our golf for our middle schools is in the fall. We have our soccer programs start after middle school football. Obviously middle school football, and then soccer starts immediately right after that. We have middle school tennis. We have a lot of middle school programs that are going on, and we have to be aware of what's going on there too, because right now we're starting all those on time. We usually don't start those practices until school starts anyway, but we gotta do the same thing. We gotta screen all those kids, and it's a lot of work.
It is. Sometimes I wonder if it's worth it, but then you have to realize it is for the kids, and 99% of those kids want to play, and that's kind of what it's all about, is enhancing their experience through their school. So hopefully we can have a better start and finish than we did to this previous school year. But Coach, a couple of things I did want to ask you about. I think maybe one big reason the GISA voted to move football, especially back 2 weeks, was really kind of predicated on what the GHSA did, to be honest. And most people probably know that there are crossover games. GISA schools can play GHSA schools now. You mentioned that, and we talked to Coach Derek about that. He has 3 schools, like you mentioned, on the schedule. I think they're all probably in September, but I know the big one's Brantley County, which of course Jeff Cannon used to be an assistant of Frederica, and those guys hooked up, and that's going to be an interesting game. But then you mentioned you have also Long County and I think Calvary Day out of Savannah. Yes. So by the GISA moving back too, you won't lose those games because everything will just stay kind of symmetrical.
Yeah, and that's key, Kevin. We put this, I think Brandon, Derek, our coach, put together this schedule as well as we've had as far as crossover games. And we realize every one of them is going to be a big challenge, but that's just how we are here. We like to play those kind of games, and our kids want to play those. And obviously, bringing Jeff back is going to be terrific. He's one of our own, and we love Jeff here. So it's great to have him back. And then of course Long County is going to be a good test for us, obviously. And then anytime you play Calvary, it's another one. So those games are important to us, and we would try to get them on this campus as much as possible. We have 6 home games this year and 4 on the road. So last year we lost a couple games. We only had 3 home games last year because of weather, inclement weather, and we weren't able to have those other home games, and it really hurt us with our attendance and concessions and everything else. And when you're a smaller school and you're spending that kind of money going on the road every week, it's tough. So it's important for us to get these home games in this year. So I was really happy when the GISA moved us back.
I'm sure. And Coach, we don't have to get too deep into this, but I think one thing the GISA has done, which the GHSA has not done, at least yet, is y'all kind of also adjusted your winter sports, which is, of course, basketball for you, and maybe even the spring sports. I think adding an extra week or something like that onto each schedule, or maybe starting a week later. Was that basically just because a lot of the athletes play, some of the same sports, and to give y'all maybe more time to practice or get those kids out there for games that they won't have to miss. I know that is going to be a problem in the GHSA if they don't back up the start of basketball a little bit. It's always a problem, but this year is definitely going to be, with football definitely lasting 2 weeks longer.
No doubt. That's the main reason why they backed this up a week. Now I'm having to get rid of a couple games because I had some games in there where, well, one of them actually was on championship Friday. And, I will never play a game on championship Friday because, in my mind, we're always going to be in that game with football. So I want to make sure that whether we are or not, that Friday's open. And so I had a game scheduled in there. I had to call their aide today. And he's from South Carolina, so he was a little hard to deal with. But I think the biggest thing for me, and I have a lot of friends that are college and university athletic directors or coaches, and they're going through a lot more than we are. And I can tell you this, coaches and athletic directors in high schools need to understand that there are a lot of people losing their jobs in the last couple of weeks. And I know in the Sunshine Conference down in Florida, Division II, all the assistant coaches were let go. Financially, it's been very rough for a lot of schools. And excuse me, I shouldn't say that about the Sunshine Conference. I know of one school that did that in that conference. So, there are a lot of other people that are hurting right now. We are fortunate that we are going forward with this year. And I want to make sure that all of my coaches know that we're fortunate and we're lucky. And let's not complain and moan and groan about things that we can handle and that we will be good with. We're going to have to make some adjustments. I have to make adjustments as a basketball coach because I lost a couple games. I won't have my players on the court with me as soon as I'm normally used to it, and so we won't be as good next year early as we are late. But, and this year we're using rankings. So last year, I was able to take our team. We won a region championship to get us into a favorable state tournament. Well, this year it's going by rankings, and guess what's going to happen to us early? Unless some of my young guys that don't play football really come through for us, it could be difficult because we're playing a pretty tough schedule ourselves. So, but you know what? I'm not going to complain about it. We're playing. A lot of places aren't playing. And so we're playing. This is for these kids. It's not for us coaches as much as it is for these kids. And I'm just thankful that we can get these kids out here on the field and out on the court. I'm very happy about that for them.
Well, that's where you're going to earn your money. You're going to have to X and O somebody to death and out scheme them and whatnot to try to steal you a win or two early with those young kids.
Yeah, well, I was used to having 7-footers that were really athletic, and can run. So I don't have any of those right now, but we have a nice team, so I'm happy with those kids. But, we're going to be okay. All of our athletic programs are going to be okay. And the reason why I say that is because we're playing. If we're playing, I'm happy about that. Our kids are practicing, and they're out on the field, and they're out on the courts and all that. I'm just so happy to see that, and I know they are. After last spring, Kevin, I don't know how, I think back of when I was in high school, how I could have handled not having sports. Because that, you've been there before. It's tough, man, to all of a sudden your whole season's just gone, and then they're going to tell you can't have it again this fall. It makes it very difficult. So I try to tell our guys, let's be thankful. Let's be thankful we're going to play and we're going forward. And I like the idea that our kids are going to have those opportunities in their life, and especially for our seniors. Once again, I don't want those guys to be, so disappointed.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Last year was rough enough, and hopefully we can get through this year in better shape. But, it's going to start off rough, and we'll just see how it goes. But, Coach, I guess I would be remiss to ask you this, and I just thought about it. One more question about the football. Now, the GHSA, in backing their season up 2 weeks, they are going to have a full season, full playoffs. And of course, that takes their state championship finals from December 11th, 12th weekend to Christmas weekend. So I think they're going to actually play those games between the Christmas and New Year's holiday. But one thing that the GISA did was actually eliminate one round of playoffs. Yes. I'm not sure that I agree with that, because that December 18th week, I guess, is the last week. That they eliminated 1 week because of finals.
Right.
But only the schools in the state championship games are going to be taking finals. I'm not sure that that's necessarily fair. Do you want to comment on that?
Well, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I think being at Frederick Academy, our academic situation is different than a lot of others, and I like it. I think we've got really great a great school with a great faculty, and I want our kids to have the opportunity to be ready for their finals and their tests and everything they have to do to prepare them for their colleges that they're attempting to go to. And then on the other hand, I look at that, and again, they're doing football by rankings, and who's to say that we have a team that should be ranked in the and let's put it this way: they're going to take the top 8 teams to put in the state. Well, let me ask you this: I'll put it back to you as a media. If you rank an opponent very low because you don't want to see them in the playoffs, then that could very well happen. And so I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I'm very suspicious, I guess, of that, especially in I shouldn't be that way, but I just finished my 4th year, and I've never liked the idea of doing these rankings, and I'm just scared of that because there's only 8 teams to go.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll have to dig into exactly how they're going to do that. I'm not sure that I'm a big fan of that either. They're very subjective. They can get very political, like you just mentioned. That's a very real example. So that's something that we'll maybe dive into a little more when we get into football season. That's a separate story in itself.
Yeah, and I'm doing a little checking on it myself right now, and I'm sure I'm probably upsetting the apple cart a little bit, but if we're not going to do it by region champions or what have you, and we do it by rankings, I'm a little concerned about that a little bit, but we'll see what happens. We're going to do it with all sports this year, so all team sports. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, that's interesting. We'll be back in touch with you guys about all that, because that is probably a separate story in the GISA athletic realm that probably deserves some attention.
Yeah, you may not want to talk to me when I find out.
We'll do it before basketball season starts.
Yeah, do that, because that, like I said, that's going to hurt me too. I mean, I've got some fine players that aren't playing football, and they'll be ready to play, and they'll give everything they have. But when you don't have depth, that's going to be a problem, and I won't have that. So, early on when we're playing some of these schools that have the depth, then it could be tough. But I'll put my guys against anybody, especially this group I have.
I got you. Well, Coach Nash, we certainly appreciate your time. Keep up the good work over at Frederica. I know it's going to be a challenging fall, and maybe this probably will go even into 2021. So hang in there, keep doing a good job, and we'll talk to you down the road.
Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Coach. That was Coach Carl Nash, head basketball coach and athletic director at Frederica Academy on St. Simon's Island, a GISA school that does very well across the board with this athletic program. Let's go ahead and thank some sponsors real quick before we go to break. Prime South Bank, Gibson Animal Clinic, Coastal Pines Technical College, Robbie Robertson Ford in Waycross, Summit Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Surgery, and Kim Smoke, licensed realtor with Crossway Realty. We'll be back with more here on Thursday night with 912 Sports right after this break.